feel my body growing. My bones have started glowing. That the time has come for showing.
Hello there. This is Opa and Sisses, and we have a very special guest today on the Opa and Sisses YouTube channel. By far the most popular guest I've ever had the opportunity to interview yet. And that is professional vocal coach and actress from Star Wars, Michele Gruska. How are you doing, Michele?
I'm great. How are you doing, considering this world is a little crazy right now? I'm doing well.
All right, that's very good to know. Yeah, it's an honor to have you on board. It's an honor.
Thank you so much. It's an honor being here. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. So I have 6 questions for you today.
Okay.
So I guess you know what? Let's just make a little. Actually, I think you'll introduce yourself more with the first question. So it's just okay. Let's hop on to the first question. All right. So the first question is: could you please explain to our viewers and obviously to myself about your general involvement with the Star Wars franchise and how you got the role of singing for Sy Snootles, and obviously in the end we had Annie Arbogast do the voice in Return of the Jedi, I believe, and you did the soundtrack. So what happened in that whole thing? So could you just give a basic explanation of your Star Wars involvement in general? Thank you.
Sure. John Williams asked me to come and audition at 20th Century Fox, and I went into the studio and they presented this song from a language that they made up. Actually, Joe Williams and John Williams wrote it. And I went in there. I gave it a pass, I think, 2 times. And the next thing I heard from John was, "That was insanely great. It's yours." So the next thing I knew, I flew to San Francisco, went to George Lucas Town, and went into this massive, massive studio with a screen that was bigger than, the outdoor theaters.
Oh,
the
wow.
drive-ins. Oh, it was really massive. It was quite exciting. It was incredible. I was unnerved by the whole thing, to be honest with you. But they put, Jabba the Hutt scene with the Rebo Max band, and Sy Snootles was standing there with the mic, and I overdubbed it. And it was unequivocally going to be me for the movie. How can I say this? Miss Arbogast was at the moment a very good friend of Mr. Lucas. So literally at the very last second, they put her voice in, unbeknownst to me.
Oh, wow.
But I was still the one on the contract. And I also did the soundtrack. And I also did the ending, the Nub-Yub song for the Ewoks. That was a blast. Oh, my God, that was incredible. It was an extraordinary experience because I was there with Lionel Newman, who was 20th Century Fox music supervisor at the time, and with John Williams and with Joe Williams. And honestly, it was an insane experience. It was a blast. It really was. It was incredible. And it turned out the way it turned out. Even though literally a second before it was released, they decided to put in, but it was fine. I didn't have a problem with that. It's it is what it is. That's the industry. But I was still happy because I was the one contracted.
But just to clarify, do I understand correctly that we can still hear you? Well, obviously, we had the special editions replacement, but in the Yub-Nub, did we still hear you as the Ewoks as part of the chorus? Or could you please clarify? Did I understand that correctly?
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I always get, by my peers, they're always joking. They're always saying, I hear you, I hear you. Yeah, I was a very big part of the last song, the Yum Nub song. Ewok Yum Yum. It was great. It was fun. There were 6 of us, and it was incredible. I also did a couple of voices for a couple of Ewok voices.
Oh, so just not singing, just in general you did a few voices?
Yeah, well, at the end, yes, It was fabulous. Yeah, and it was a wonderful, incredible experience, to be honest, and to be a part of this extraordinary, epic franchise is something you can't explain.
Yeah.
At first, you don't realize, how extraordinary it really is. And then as time goes by, I've been elated by the whole experience, yes.
Well, I can only imagine how it must have felt, especially since it was already so long ago and Star Wars was only on the rise then, obviously. But it must have been amazing at that time, especially.
It really, really was. It was.
Yeah, and that leads us actually into the second question, and that is, so I know that, from what I understand at least, Richard Marquand was the director of Return of the Jedi, and yet obviously Mr. George Lucas had so much involvement, so my question is, what kind, could you please clarify that? Do you know what kind of involvement who had and what kind of involvement George had, given he wasn't the director of this one, from what I understand?
Well, he wrote and directed, and then the sequels, The Empire Strikes Back, it was written by, I think, Lawrence Kasdan and Mr. Lucas, but he was mostly producer and co-writer of both the sequels, Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to think, the director of Empire...
I believe it's Irvin Kershner. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All
That
right.
is correct.
Yes.
That is correct. Yes, that is correct. And he also... he was the director on the Empire Strikes Back, and then it changed to Richard on Return of the Jedi. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But George Lucas was involved every step of the way. I mean, when I was at the studio, he was hanging out, up at the top, and listening to every single thing all of us did. So he was really involved, as I could see. He was involved from beginning to end. He didn't take over the directing anymore, but he was producing and co-writing. So, yeah, he was still a huge part of it.
Yeah, because that's something I was always curious about. I was always curious about it because obviously as soon as I learned a couple of years ago that he wasn't the director of episodes 5 and 6, I was always curious. So obviously you explained it now, and hearing it from an official member of the cast now gives a lot of clarity. But yes, thank you for that. I want to ask the next question now, the third. And that is this is a very interesting question, I believe. At least this is the one I'm most curious about hearing from you. Unbiasedly, because obviously you sang for Laptinek and so on, but obviously Laptinek was in the special editions replaced by Jedi Rocks. And I was just curious, unbiasedly speaking, without personal bias, more like just the song and the tune and so on, which is your personal preference?
It really is unbiased, but honestly, oh my God, unequivocally, the first one. Because the second one, it just, even though it was cool, and that's what they were probably trying to achieve, I just don't think it fit. Even though it was a cool idea and they were trying to sort of, update it, it unequivocally didn't match up like the Latinx. It just didn't.
I see.
But, yeah. I feel that way. I think many do feel that way. I've had many fan letters saying, "Oh my gosh, why did they do this? Why did they replace it?" So it's not my only feeling. It's quite a few.
Yeah, well, I do hear many people actually saying that across the internet, especially.
Yeah, I think simply because it just didn't match the excitement of the fantasy, the fantasy and the sci-fi, and it was just so much fun. I think the replacement just lacked luster in reference to fun.
Well, that's most definitely a very interesting perspective, especially coming from you, of course, a member of the cast. Very interesting. But I do want to ask the following question now, more about your career as a vocal coach. You have had the opportunity to work with many talented people. So could you please talk, of course, more about the kind of people you worked with, and in general, just every kind of person you work with as a vocal coach and the kind of experiences you've had? Could you just discuss that, please?
Sure. Actually, before I became a vocal coach, I was doing really nicely in the industry, singing for TV and film and voiceovers, tons of jingles in English and in Spanish. And I had a blast. I did a ton of movies and a ton of TV. And it just so happens that one day, a friend of mine said to me, "Can you please teach my daughter?" I said, "No, I'm not a teacher. I can't teach. I'm a doer. I'm a singer." She says, "Yeah, but you've got the most incredible voice. Please, can you just teach her what you know?" And I said, "Oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to do this because I don't, claim to be a teacher." She said, "I don't care. You have to just teach her what you know." So, make a long story short, I did, and lo and behold, she became a very successful artist, and that's how the ball got rolling. And I ended up reinventing myself by accident.
Oh, wow.
And I know. I was still doing voiceovers and singing for TV and film. But then it really rolled over into teaching a lot. I ended up at one point with over 40 students a week. It was cuckoo. But I've had the opportunity to teach incredible singers, incredible artists. And it really was still is, very fulfilling to pass along what I've learned from very successful vocal coaches over the last, 4 decades. It sounds horrifying saying it. But, it's been a wonderful thing, so I'm very grateful, really, really grateful, because I've, taken ages 5 to unlimited.
Oh,
So,
wow.
I've had a plethora of genres that I've taught, except rap. I don't, but it's really, it's been incredible. I've enjoyed every minute of it, and I've really enjoyed, to be honest, watching these beginners turning into these incredibly successful artists. It's great.
I'm sure that your students, the people you have taught, feel the same way. I'm sure they are very grateful to have had you as their vocal coach. I'm sure of that.
so. I hope so.
Yes, as do I. And that actually, now we have, I believe this is actually the last question now. What was your overall experience when it comes to Star Wars? And how do you feel about obviously Sy Snootles becoming obviously such a big part of the lore as many characters do in the franchise?
Well, when I was in San Francisco with the three of them, Lionel, John, and Joe, we had hysterical experiences for a couple of days. I mean, truly, I could expound on one, but it's okay. It's in my heart at this point. It was so much fun, an extraordinary learning experience, and really set me up for life. And I am incredibly grateful for the opportunity that was given to me. And to be a part of something that is just so legendary, it's been with me for life. And as years go by, I've realized how lucky I am, and how grateful I am. It's pretty incredible, pretty incredible. In reference to Sy Snootles, I do consider myself Sy Snootles, even though with all due respect, with Annie Arbogast, God bless her, good for her that she snuck in and got on there, but honestly, I really feel like I'm Sy Snootles because I did the album, I did the, I also did an LP, with Sy Snootles, and it's it's been a blast. So yeah, I have Sy Snootles in my heart. So I'm sharing her with Annie.
That's fantastic, and I mean we are all very blessed to have had you as the voice of Sy Snootles. It's in the soundtrack, and obviously you being such a big presence online, and obviously being such a major vocal coach, and so on. And I think it's simply amazing what you have contributed to Star Wars, to the Star Wars franchise, to the Star Wars brand, and I think all of the viewers of the YouTube channel, of my YouTube channel, will completely agree on that. So we were very, very grateful and honored to have had you on board, and we look forward to seeing what your career brings you in the future.
Yes, so do I. I'm looking forward to every minute of it.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Popo. This was delightful.
Oh, you are so welcome. Yes, it was certainly an incredible experience, like never I imagined anything before. Being so close to Star Wars, it has let me just say this, obviously this is on a personal level, but Star Wars has affected me so much throughout my entire life. Every single film, in fact, even the shows, everything. And just to speak to someone who has been so involved from so long ago, when only the original trilogy was even coming out, it's a dream come true. So thank you for agreeing once again.
You're so welcome, and thank you, Oppo.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Yes. All right. Please subscribe to the Oppo Rancis' YouTube channel. And this was Michele Gruska here today, our guest, voice of Sy Snootles in the original Return of the Jedi. Unfortunately, of course, as she mentioned during the interview, she did not make the final cut, but she very much was in the album, so that is something incredible. And of course, the voice of the Ewoks and professional vocal coach. Thank you once again, and that is where we'll wrap up, folks.